Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrien Ag Solutions, and I'm excited this year to be a part of the Farm Credit Illinois Fielding Forward meetings in 2020. And that's because I'm ready to put 2019 behind us. Take a look at this map real quick here. Statewide average precipitation ranks from last December 2018 through November 2019. State of Illinois ranks right here, 123rd out of 124 years. Very, very wet year for us. And because of that, we saw one of the wettest spring planting times on record. And we got to talk about why this happened, what lessons we can learn from this, because parts of our state here saw in excess of 5 to in some locations over 15 inches of precipitation. We had major flooding across our major river systems. In fact, this is what things look like by mid-June here around the St. Louis Arch. And the heavy precipitation we saw delayed planting, and that's a picture of my boy Graham standing in front of corn in Mahomet, Illinois, which was only up to his waist on July the 9th. Well, as we all know, 2019 was the slowest planting pace we now have on record for planting corn and soybeans, and this will be the new benchmark year against which we compare everything else. It was also a year that saw nearly 20 million acres of prevent planted, many of those acres right here in the state of Illinois. In fact, the state of Illinois, second most highest in terms of payouts by state for the flood-related crop insurance program here in the United States at $473 million paid out. In addition to that, we had quite a bit of severe weather across the whole of the country, 23,000 reports. Illinois right there taking a lot of them, a lot of very strong winds like storm squalls like we saw here, with this particular squall line blasting through central Illinois, causing some major damage earlier on in our season. Those storm systems are notorious for producing beautiful shelf clouds like this one, and we will be definitely talking about some fun severe weather stuff in the talks here this January. But more importantly, we're going to learn what it takes from our atmosphere to get us those great years where we have those massive yields. For example, what do our temperatures have to be like over there on the left when they spike in midsummer versus these kind of years where they dip in midsummer? What does it take to get us those kind of patterns? And we will most certainly be talking about the longer term changes right here in the state of Illinois, but also across the whole of the Corn Belt in terms of how our climate systems do shift and what that means for the overall picture for us to continue to be productive across the United States in terms of producing grain, all right? And most certainly, this will come down to a discussion about precipitation, where we have certainly been over the last 70 years getting wetter. And we'll see how those factors come in to give us the distribution of rainfall that we need to make big yields versus years that are tough. We're talking about both things in our meetings, but I'll definitely be focusing on this. Over the last 39 years here, we've actually seen a major increase in our heavy rainfall events. And we need to talk about what that means in terms of strategies to managing our water a little bit better, because at times, with this excess precipitation that comes in, it makes it very difficult to do the operations we need to do when it comes to farming in this great state of Illinois. So as we get into these January talks, one of the things we'll definitely be focusing on is next spring, because winter started off with a bang. Here's the snowfall analysis we had out of that mid-December snow event that really targeted the I-70 corridor here, dumping in some locations well over 6 inches of snow, really impacting a lot of farms down here in southern Illinois, Indiana, and into Missouri. But the bigger questions that loom, without a strong El Nino or La Nina signal, will the warm North Pacific and will the warmth that's sitting over here in the central Atlantic and into the Gulf be a major influencer on our pattern? Because right now, as we think about what the shape and the distribution of these ocean temperatures look like across the Pacific and across the Atlantic, that will determine what the rest of our winter is going to look like, and also next spring. We're going to be discussing all of it because as we look out longer range, December, January, February, even into March, we are anticipating for temperatures to be much closer to average for our winter, and at times seeing a very active storm track, as I think the jet stream is going to do something like this, break off into two branches coming together here to give us a very strong Ohio River Valley storm track. And for us in Illinois, that can mean a very, very active winter. And at the end of all of our talks, we definitely are going to dive into what's going on in South America. We'll talk about what we're anticipating for first crop soybeans, as well as what we're looking at for safrinha corn crop coming out of Brazil and Argentina. So a lot to be discussing. I'm excited to be a part of this year's Fielding Forward meetings, and I will see you in January. Thank you.